me. I can feel your breath.
Welcome to the up and down matches. We are in our fourth day. We have Group D today. I am Wolf, and with me today is Caldor. How are you feeling, man?
Actually, really good. Finally getting spring in Korea. It's really warm outside today.
Yeah, it was really warm today. I walked out and it felt just so nice.
Yeah, yesterday, the last few days, it was really cold. So every time you would walk out of the apartment, it would be like freezing. And today, it's getting really, really sunny and warm outside. So it's beautiful in Korea. And we have a beautiful evening of StarCraft II ahead of us, which should be starting with a very nice match today.
Yeah, I think our first match should be really interesting to watch. It's going to be Virus against Killer, and it's going to be on Belshire Beach. Should be a pretty exciting match to watch. Our group in general today is pretty stacked. We've got Virus, we've got Killer. Of course, we have Huck in the group. He's been given an up and down spot, so he really has to prove himself today. There's a lot of people talking, about his seed. Is it GOM just fine giving Huck a seed? Most people would say yes. Some people aren't sure, but he can try to prove himself today. Here are yesterday's results. We saw the STC getting out the group, as well as Maru. Two players. One player, really kind of the underdog in the group. Maru getting out was very unexpected. The STC, it was hard to say if he was going to get out, but he looked so strong and so solid in the group. Alicia going 3-0 and then losing his next three matches, doing a lot of all-in play, just not quite able to edge his way out of the group.
Yeah, JYP losing and not advancing was definitely one of the upsets. He's a huge fan favorite. Maru, on the other hand, he was proving to be... He played just so well lately, not only in his Code A games, but also in the GSTL. He played so very well, and him getting the Code F seed is actually kind of really nice. This is today's players. We have Killer, we have Virus, Finn, Lucky, Brown, and Huck. So this is going to be very, very exciting, and I actually expect a very tight group today.
Yeah, this should be a really tight group. We had yesterday some tiebreakers. I wouldn't be surprised if we had that again today. I just don't see any players in this group who look to me like, oh, this person will get out. Maybe Lucky and Killer are the two that seem like, okay, maybe they'll just do it. Maybe they'll get out. Like, they just seem like they might be able to edge the way out. They might have a slight edge over the competition.
The huge problem that I see for Killer is that he's known to be a very, very bad PvP player. Or, well, not like bad, but it's a matchup where he has the most problems. And he was really shaky last season in his PvP. He has to face two Protoss players in the group. He has to face Huck and Brown. So it's going to be a little bit of an upset, or a little bit of a problem for him. And, well, Huck, we talked to him earlier, and he said that he was feeling sick lately, and it's apparently getting really bad. So I'm not quite sure how well he can perform today. He was like, yeah, we'll see. But the first two players today are Killer and Virus, and we are going to head into this first match of the day. Belshire Beach is the map. Now a Terran versus Protoss.
Yep, it's loading up right now. We'll see if Killer can take out Virus here. Virus, a player who's never really been able to make a big splash. We'll see if he can get back into Code S here. The same can be said of Killer, recently joining Complexity. Only one of these two players will take the first win. We'll find out in just a moment who it will be at the GSL Up and Downs with Wolf and Caldor.
Listen to me, step up if you wanna feel this music. Don't stop it, keep rocking. Adrenaline phenomenon, let's use it. No need to lose it, just lose it.
Map number one of the fourth group, the GSL Up and Downs, and at the bottom right of Belshire Beach, we have our Protoss player, the starting player of the day in the red color.
Complexity Killer.
Former TSL member now joined Complexity, and he is up against a Terran. Killer once again looking sexy here in his booth, but he definitely has a hard road ahead of him, as does his opponent. Terran player starting at the top left for Startail. It is none other than
StarCraft Virus.
Virus has always been known for his red, like very bright red to orange colored hair. He's consistently had that hair color ever since he first started playing in the GSL. That probe actually not squeeze its way out.
I finally can just say a little bit about the hair colors. This reddish color is apparently getting really popular in Korea right now. Major recently dyed his hair because he wants to look like some of the Brood War pros. We have Shoya with the same hair color. and Lenok as well. With Joya it's a little bit fading, but apparently this is getting really popular now.
Yeah, this is really popular. You know what else is popular as far as hairstyles go in Korea? Dyeing your hair blonde is becoming more popular for girls right now. It's kind of trending. It fades in and out of popularity, and in the past few weeks it's been one of those trending things. This probe is not being mineral walked, so he's going to take 1 bit of damage there, going down to 15 hit points. And of course, he knows now what's up. No gases have been taken. It's going to be a command center after barracks. 1 racks expand, and his opponent, Killer, who has scouted this, has made his Cybernex core on time. Will not be going for a faster Nexus, and will likely just 1 gate expand himself.
With the early probe, you can scout your opponent a tiny little bit on Belcher Beach, and there's always, well, it's a little bit of a preference what you want to do as a Terran player. If you want to block this probe out in order to deny scouting, or if you just try to trap it inside in order to kill at least one of the probes, deny your opponent a bit of mining. A probe dead by now, and finally Virus can now start with its expansion. Not a surprise here, going for the 1 barracks expander. Well, we have to see what Killer is doing right now. Chrono boosting his gateway and trying to put on the pressure.
Yeah, he put a Zealot out here. This will, of course, force Virus to make a bunker. He may have otherwise skipped. Has to make it now. If he doesn't, he will lose Marines. eBay block going down now for Virus on the natural, so he's actually going to have to potentially send his Stalker back, so that does not only shut down the Stalker pressure, but delays the Nexus. Stalker going to go to work on that engineering bay. It's so good to block this. There's no easy way for Protoss to deny the engineering bay. There's just not a lot of units out for Protoss. The Zealot is actually going to sneak by here, perhaps. Try to target down some Marines, but with good micro, he won't be able to do anything. In fact, he will die, most likely. Oh, barely gets away with 47 hit points.
Yeah, you are, by the way, perfectly right about the engineering bay. This is such annoying play. Even as a Zerg player, it's really annoying, and I think it's more of a problem handling it as Protoss in my experience. But it's just, it screws up your timings and everything. You're just sitting there and like, oh man, really? And you have to take it down, which also makes you just use one of your Stalkers, of your earlier Stalkers in this case, in order to kill it, so you can't head out with the Stalker. The Terran player gets a little bit of additional time.
Yeah, with the way the build goes for Protoss, you just don't have units out to stop the SCV from building it, and if you don't see it, then you definitely can't. But even if you do, it just builds so fast, whereas if you try to do it to a Zerg, you usually have the 4 Zerglings out anyways, and it just can't really build. It's just so difficult for us to defend. A second bunker going down now for Virus. He's playing this one very safely.
Yeah, he's expanding now again, so he's getting a 3rd command center, so the bunker definitely makes sense.
He's trying to scout and make sure his opponent did plant that Nexus down, but good scout denied by Killer. He has both watchtowers right now and did actively search for the SCV, doing a great job right now of shutting down his opponent's vision options. But like you said, there is a 3rd command center going down, and he doesn't know about that. Ooh, double eBay going down now for Virus.
The one thing that I always wondered about a little bit is about this particular placement of the 3rd command center. We have it to the top left, so it doesn't really matter which expansion he wants to take. If he wants to expand, it's once again to the right side of the map, or if he wants to take the expansion that's a little bit more at the bottom right of his main base, he has to fly for quite a long way and will lose a lot of mining time. On the other hand, with the placement that he uses right now, Killer will see it very, very late. There's no chance for him sneaking into the base because there's over the 2 bunkers at the front, and even if a probe or Zealot or whatever is able to pass the 2 bunkers, there will still be the problem of getting into the main base, so a position that hides the command center for a long time.
Very true indeed. It also means if he goes for some sort of Blink Stalker 10 attack or anything like that, the command center will not be vulnerable from the edge of the base. Speaking of Blink Stalkers, the Twilight Council is almost done for Killer. Killer is really well known for Dark Templar off of 2 base, getting a slightly delayed Dark Shrine, so that may be what he's going for here. And in fact, it is. Oh no, it's going to be a fast Templar Archives. This is something that you see very rarely. Only players like Oz have really been able to make this work. We'll see exactly what Killer has planned with this. This, of course, gives him the ability to get super fast Archons, but also will allow him to get Storm quickly if he wants to, but that's such a risky investment.
Yeah, it's a very, very risky build, especially because he's taking quite a gamble here. He does not have any detection. He's getting the Forge now, so he could place down cannons, but in case that there would be some kind of Banshee play, he would have been in a really tough spot. And, well, we've seen delayed Banshees on this map. It's not all that popular, but occasionally it pops up, so Killer taking a little bit of a risk. He won't be punished for it, but yeah, this could actually be kind of successful, going for the double upgrades right now, and well, we'll see if this is turning out to be the strategy that he needs in order to defeat Virus.
He's going up to 6 gateways here, Kaldor, and this is really interesting. No Storm Research. Looks like he wants to use purely Archons with this. He is getting 1-1, and he may just be trying to hit a timing with 1-1 and Archons. He does not have, he's actually going up to 7 gateways. He's not getting charged either using all of his gas, or he will be. He hasn't even done it yet. He will be. No, now he's getting Storm, so this is actually just, he's powering up to a lot of gateways, he's getting upgrades. None of this really seems to make a lot of sense. Normally you would get the 3rd Nexus and then power up, but in this case, he's powering up, and I'm guessing he's going to be getting a Nexus fairly soon afterwards, because with what he's doing here, he's built so much infrastructure, it doesn't look like he's going for a timing attack. He could potentially try to hit a timing with Storm and 1-1 with Archons to follow up, but that's such a weird build. I've never seen anything really like that before.
It's really hard to power up a ramp like this as well, because you have a lot of bunkers, you have a good positioning for the Terran player. And here comes Charge, and he definitely needs the Charge upgrade. But as you already said, on 2 bases, this can be quite difficult. If he starts to attack and his attack fails, he will be in a lot of trouble. But right now we have, well, Virus starting to take his expansion. As a side note, both players have exactly the same record in this particular matchup. We have both of them on a 50% win ratio. And, well, right now the 3rd base is about to be in position for Virus, while he's getting the combat shield and +2/+2. So Killer, even though he is double upgrading as well, is behind in upgrades. He needs to make sure that he's chrono boosting his 2nd set of upgrades if he wants to get even with the Terran player.
Yeah, he does absolutely need to do that, and now he's starting +2 for his weapons, and will start armor very soon as well. The 3rd base is now up for Virus. He did not really rush it out there. He had the commands there for a long time, but he built his SCV count. Now that worker count is 56 to 59 in favor of Virus.
We have him with the Ghost Academy, so he will be prepared to get those into the game.
This is so strange by Killer, how he's powered up to so many gateways and he's just playing defensively without taking a 3rd. It's like he just wants to get a super strong 2-base army and then do something with it. But with the build that Virus has done, it's just so weird and so risky. Virus is now getting +1 ship weapons, so he's trying to prepare for everything. An Archon is being morphed, and Virus turns home to defend against his expansion.
Can we check the vision of Virus actually in order to see if he used some scans? He did not, did he?
No, he has no idea. He's playing kind of blindly right now, just trying to do a catch-all with the Ghost Academy and the ship weapons. Ship weapons will always be useful later on. Small engagement here, a few Zealots going down. He did force a stim on all of the Terran units though, and there are Storms available, do not forget.
Yeah, Virus is backing off now, and we have Killer with a Robo, so after all he's transitioning, but still no 3rd base for him. He's still on 2 bases, now finally getting another Nexus, trying to establish the base in kind of the middle to the top left of his main Nexus. And now we have the first few ghosts finishing for Virus, so he will have the EMPs. He did not get the Mirror's Reactor just yet, if I'm not mistaken.
Here we go, we're actually going to have him engage the 3rd base now. It's not a planetary. Storms on the left side to deny the units.
Wow.
Oh my god, a really nice engagement by Killer.
This position is just great. He has the Templar in a position where he can take down any unit coming down the show, but at the same time we have Virus now dropping into his opponent's main base, but the medevac gets taken out.
Yeah, he was so prepared. He had a cannon and Templar to feed back the medevac, so he was able to clean that up. And Killer is actually going to go for an attack now. A huge 2-base play here from the Killer. A 3rd Nexus is on the way during this. It looks like that's not really his main plan here. Feedback's going off on the Ghost. More charged Zealots coming in. He's not really engaging this very well anymore. He might want to pull back now.
Yeah, he had a bit of a problem here when all those reinforcements started to attack the supply depots, losing another sentry, and well, supply-wise, Killer is still a bit ahead. He took down the 3rd of his opponent, or at least he forced a lift-off. His own 3rd just completed, but this is still a little bit of a problem for Killer right now. He did not win that just yet. He lost too many units attacking up this ramp. He did a lot of damage, but as he said, he should have pulled out a bit earlier.
Now the Marine count is so high. He only has 9 Mars, he has 18 Marines. With the amount of Storms he has in this army, and with the Zealot count and the Archons, if he catches this army right now, he can do a serious amount of damage, and he's going for it. The upgrades right now, 2-2 for both players.
Nice stutter step here, but the force field is trying to prevent the retreat of the Terran army. And wow, the pickoff saves most of them, but still this expansion is once again assailed.
The SCVs do, for the most part, escape that Archon blast. But there are 4, 5 Templar now coming in here, most of them with 1 Storm available.
Yeah, Virus is hard pressed right now. Killer has enough probes to saturate his third base as well. He's on his way to getting +3/+3
Oh man,
upgrades.
there's a drop coming into the main that's going to be shut down completely. And feedback's going off on these ghosts.
Beautiful.
The Zealots running in. The drop actually goes to the third base of Killer, but there are units warping in to defend. He will defend that, no problem. You guys don't even need to see it. He's already defended it, and now this game looks pretty over. Killer showing a great two-base Templar timing and decision-making. GG.
Well done by Killer, and no problem for him winning his first game. And Killer takes it, and therefore his first winner, putting Virus on 0-1.
That was so unusual the way he executed that build, but he just played an aggressive PvT rather than playing a defensive one. A lot of time in this matchup, if you don't go for that big two-base time attack, you're the one who's kind of playing defensively. You try to get the third up. I loved how he engaged the third. He has Templars on the left, so no units could come in. His units, if they ran in, they would have to run through storms.
Yeah,
it's like he set up a force field.
The positioning was just beautiful. He could attack the third base. There were a couple of units defending, but it was not enough. And the only thing that stands between the second and the third are those Templar, and you're perfectly right. Marching down the ramp, immediately storming everything, running into these storms. That's something that Virus just could not afford, so he had to pull back, had to kind of sacrifice most of the SCVs and lift off at the expansion as well.
He showed some really good reaction time on lifting the command center. He also was able to save all of his SCVs most of the time. A few of them went down, of course, that's inevitable, but he was able to save his SCVs time and time again. But Killer just was so strong, and Virus didn't know what kind of composition he was dealing with. He was getting ship weapons, but his Ghost route a little bit later. And great drop defense by Killer, having Templar and a cannon defending at all times, so he could defend no matter what. I mean, he looked so good in that game, taking a very late third, but just being aggressive rather than defensive.
Yeah, he played very, very well and takes the first game, so he's in a very good position now in the group after just one game, and we'll see how the next game is going to turn out. We'll have the first match of Lucky, if I'm not mistaken. As far as I know, he's up against 4GG.
Yeah, and that should be a really exciting match to watch. 4GG has shown a lot of really good timing attacks in Brood War. That's what he was known for. And in StarCraft II, he's shown some good timing attacks, but sometimes his decision-making in the mid to late game seems to be a little bit behind some of the other players who have been playing StarCraft II just, quite frankly, longer. So we'll see how he does today, and I'm really curious, especially about his TVZ, especially about his play against Lucky. That's something I really want to see, because Lucky has historically in the past shown some really good ZVT, and recently has not been as dominant in that matchup, but in the past he showed some really, really good ZVT.
Yeah, he is, well, I casted his games on Assembly, and I remember casting a couple of games against Terran. He played against Strelok, for example, and I was a little bit disappointed with Lucky's style against Terran. I think he took the series with 2-1 in the end after all, but just the style of play that he showed was really weird to me, so I actually want to see how he's doing against 4GG now, because I believe that he prepared for this matchup quite a bit. 4GG, on the other hand, the first season when he just started to win his Code A qualifier, when he played in Code A as well and made his way to Code S, I was really impressed. He showed a bunch of games that were really amazing. But the last season, I don't want to say he slipped a little bit, but those timings that were so awesome when we first casted his games, they were just a little bit wrong, and he had a lot more problems dealing with his opponents. So it's going to be interesting to see if he is getting back into Code S, if he is able to make it work this time. Here we have a shot of 4GG.
Yeah, I really think if the game goes into a third base scenario, he's really going to struggle against Lucky. I don't think he can play against the late game of Lucky as well as Lucky can play against the late game of 4GG. I think that will be kind of his weak point here. We'll see how much he's improved that late game, though. It may be, in fact, that he's improved so much that that's no longer the case. It's been a while since we've really been able to see 4GG try to prove himself, and you can see Lucky pulling a Choya here, talking to himself just a little bit to try to calm himself down. This tends to be a trend of some FX Open players, like to talk to themselves in the booth, calm themselves down, and we'll see how he does. He's actually done really well in the past. He's made a big splash recently, but we'll see how he does in the up and downs. Is he really going to be a Code S contender? Can he play with the big boys in Korea? I mean, he's played with the big boys at other tournaments outside of Korea, but can he do it here in Korea in the homeland? That's what we're going to wait and see here.
Yeah, he wanted to go to Assembly to get a little bit of experience, foreign experience as well. And I remember the first day he was hanging around with most of the Korean players, and he just told them, "Okay, guys, listen up. I will go to Select's room, and I'll catch you guys later." He never showed up at Select's room, so he couldn't find it, and he got kind of lost in Helsinki, and everyone was so worried. They were like, okay, this guy basically speaks no English at all, and he doesn't have... We gave him the phone numbers of a couple of guys, but for some reason he didn't call them, so they sent out one of the admins and was like, okay, you have to look for Lucky, you have to find him, we are actually worried about him. It was just so funny. He was a little bit nervous in Europe at the tournament, and I think in this booth that we've just seen, he is still nervous. And there's a lot of pressure on these players. It's not only that you're on camera, but you know that everything kind of depends on if you are able to win those games, if you're able to get this good-ass spot. And the group is kind of tight. So Lucky is one of the favorites. We talked about it earlier, and well, we asked on Twitter as well, who you think would advance in this group, and most of those replies that we got included Lucky for one of the two spots.
Yeah, he seems to be the fan favorite. As well.
But still, it's really, really hard, and there's a lot of pressure, and if you just crumble for 1 or 2 moments, suddenly you're in a bad position, you're down 1 or 2 games.
It's so important to get that early momentum in the group, and his first map is going to be Entombed Valley, so he's going to have to play against 4GG here. This map for Zerg versus Terran is fairly balanced. I looked up the stats yesterday. They're pretty close to 50, very close in fact, for this particular matchup. So a lot of Zergs still kind of dislike this map against Terran, but it's a map that statistically speaking, Zergs have done decently well against Terrans. It's a pretty balanced map.
We've seen a lot of all-ins on this map as well. A lot of Zerg players decide to go for an all-in. The choke is not really all that small, so you can go for roach bailing attacks, for ling bailing attacks. I've seen Linok play a couple of... Linok played a very nice series against Moro I think it was like 2 months ago. And... No, it was not 2 months ago, but that doesn't really matter. The series was actually really nice, and Linok went for an amazing ling bailing timing that worked so well against Moro. So players still try to figure out this map. It has been around for a little bit, but not long enough that you know about all the timings, about all the possible strategies that you can play. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do as a Zerg player. You don't have to go into the macro game. You can just try to end the game early if you don't feel comfortable playing against your opponent in the macro game.
Yeah, there's definitely that option there. The third base is fairly easy to take for a Zerg, but you have to destroy those rocks to really take it safely, because if you don't, Hellions will just run in there. You have to be kind of slow and meticulous about how you take that third. So a lot of Zergs take a delayed third. They get the macro hatch up instead, oftentimes. So both our players are in the room now. We're going to be starting very soon.
One of the things that can be really annoying as a Zerg player is if your opponent has a very, very good drop macro. If he's able to have this multitasking where he drops, it can get really frustrating, because you can abuse the high and low ground between the bases. At the third base, you can just bounce between all 3 bases and try to take down the Zerg player. So a lot of Zergs decide to go for a mutalist play, although the surrounding areas of the bases don't really favor
it defensively rather than offensively.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so our players are ready here. Looks like Lucky wants to adjust his monitor positioning just slightly. He looks really nervous, to be honest. We saw him earlier talking to himself in his booth. Now he's moving around in his chair a lot. He's trying to adjust his settings. Looks like he just does not feel comfortable. Whereas 4GG right now looks very set and comfortable. He's actually just sitting in his chair, scratching his leg, sitting back, relaxing right now.
The problem for Lucky is that the last games that he played, a lot of the matches that he played recently, he lost most of them at the IGN Pro League, at Assembly. He lost to Puma and to Paul, obviously. So this is a little bit of a problem that he might be in just his mindset where he needs to prove to himself again that he can win the important matches. And this is definitely an important one, ladies and gentlemen. We are starting with Lucky against Finn. Zerg versus Terran. Valley.